avenuepodcast.net.
You are listening to If You Give a Dad a Podcast.
Hello, all my beautiful people. I am ready to get this one out there. I am very excited about you guys hearing this episode. It's with a guy that I was going to have on a few months ago. You heard me kind of talk about being excited to have this guy whenever I had Joe Helms on the show. So I am very excited to have on Brutal Bob Evans. He is a wrestler, and he has been pretty much everywhere when it comes to wrestling. He's wrestled in Ring of Honor, NWA, Impact, and WWE, and I'm very excited to have him on. You know, I thought we were going to talk about a whole bunch of different stories and things like that from his career, but it turned out to be a more informational episode, and I'm really excited about this one. He gives a lot of good information and a lot of good tips. And even for people who aren't a wrestler, maybe if you have a podcast, he gives some really good ideas on how to get more people to listen to your podcast as well. So I feel everybody's going to really enjoy this episode. And for those of you who are here just to listen to the Bob Evans episode, welcome. I hope that you enjoy what you hear, and I hope that you stick around and listen to some of the other great episodes I have here as well. So, if you guys are as excited as I am, then let's get this show on the road.
If You Give a Dad a Podcast. Hey, Dad.
So where did you actually train at?
I made a really good career out of being able to bump, sell, and I had a punch me face.
I wasn't about to call you dad, so.
Seriously?
I felt like I was in an anime or something.
People get really mad at those videos for some reason. Like it triggers certain people. Yeah. Bloop.
Wow.
I was actually lost as an infant, and I was taken in by a traveling group of independent wrestlers.
I love it. I'm excited for this stuff.
Bro.
You get punched in the face on the daily. Do you always do these interviews with your shirt off?
What?
Man, this guy won't shut up.
All right, everybody. So I'm really excited about this one. This is a guy that I've been wanting to get on here for quite a while, and we finally got a chance to nail this down and get him on the show. He is a Massachusetts-based wrestler who started in about 1992. He's done work with Ring of Honor, NWA, Impact, WWF, and WWE. I am very excited about this. Like I said, this is Brutal Bob Evans. And man, how are you doing today?
Jared, I'm great. How are you? I'm as we speak, as this was being recorded, I'm headed into work. The aforementioned quote unquote shoot job, as the kids call it. I like to call it the Clark Kent job because we get to be Superman on the weekend and change lives and save people. But then we got to get back to put the glasses on and get back to reporting at the Daily Planet. But it's I was in Indiana for two great events, met a lot of new people. I do some work in the Midwest, but I hadn't been to Indiana about 4 or 5 years, so it's great. And yeah, man, just traveling all over the country, doing my thing, and then trying to be a halfway decent husband and a halfway decent dad as well. And it's a lot, but it's we try to. It's trying to have it all, as Liz Lemon would say on 30 Rock.
Right. So. Yeah. I feel you on that, trying to balance everything, it's hard to do, but it makes you feel more fulfilled when you're able to do all of those things. So no, I definitely get that.
Yes. It's almost like God put me on here to teach classes about it and have a website dealing with balancing life and wrestling. Almost like they call it the wrestlelife.com.
Yeah.
But, who's talking about that right now? So.
Well, I was going to bring that up. You do have your own podcast and everything called the Wrestle Life Podcast. What made you start that?
Yes.
I mean, I know you do you're kind of, I would say, the guru of indie wrestling. Everybody loves seeing the advice and stuff that you post online. But how did you get into starting a podcast?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people telling great stories, and you can learn from context. And if you know what to look for, you can get a lot out of that. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of finding mentors that you may never meet, finding mentors from 100 years ago that you may never meet, with a lot of the historical stuff and biographical stuff. I'm a big fan of that. But there's not too many people kind of in the weeds, and I'm 50 now, and I've been in for 31 years, as you mentioned before. Thanks for bringing it up. Now I feel older, but
sorry,
it's all right. Forgiveness is something I'm working on. So, but it's one of those things where someone needs to bridge the gap between the old men yelling at the clouds and the rebellious young people that old people don't understand us, and kids these days, they'll never get it. And somebody's got to be in between, kind of refereeing these two people and bringing them together. And I feel like I do a good job with that, with kind of translating the old school stuff. Cause I grew up watching it. I was trained by a lot of old school guys, a lot of old school Kowalski guys, and some of the old territory guys. And a lot of that isn't being taught anymore. My tag team partner, Tim Hughes, when we do the Tough Guy Inc. thing, which is a lot of what I'm doing now, Tim's been, he's turned into one of my best friends, but I've had to take a millennial, Tim's quite a bit younger than me. I'm 50 and he's 32. Well, he'd be 32 this November, but it's one of those things where I'm teaching a millennial how to be an 80s territory wrestler. It's weird because I feel like myself, I'm doing a bad copy of it a lot of times. So, it's one of those things where I'm trying to give these guys the gift of what I saw growing up because it was so fun and so exciting.
Right.
But I want them to put it into their, and girls too, men, women, we're there's a lot of great women in wrestling now, which is awesome. But I'm trying to give them that gift because wrestling back then to me was such a blast, and it's a blast now. Don't get me wrong. I had a blast this weekend, worked with some really cool people I had never worked with before, and they were great. They played along with us, some very talented people. But they just, if you don't know, you don't know. Right. And I can sit there and I can point and laugh at you and say, I can't believe you don't know that. You're so ignorant. I can't believe how much more I know than you. Or I could just teach them and go, hey, how about this? How about doing some of this stuff in our match? That'll be fun, right? Or I saw your match. Can I give you some advice? And, they're always very kind. Oh, sure. But then I don't just sit there and scream and yell at them. I go, you're capable of more. You're capable of more.
Yeah.
I know you can do this. But there wasn't a lot of that available. And I'm very fortunate to have a marketing coach who's a millionaire from marketing, because I study millionaires, and he's a giant wrestling fan. If you've ever seen, his name is Shane Sams. I'm going to give a little plug for him because Coach Shane, first of all, he's an actual coach. He was a football coach in high school and college. And Shane is a giant wrestling fan. He's been to WrestleMania. He loves AEW. He loves what I'm doing. He was actually, if you've ever seen the video, this is kind of a weird trivia note, but if you've ever seen the video of the fan mocking Orange Cassidy, not mocking him, actually imitating him out of love, but the fan was imitating him, dressed up like him. That was my coach that actually filmed that.
Cool.
Yeah, very weird trivia thing, but Shane makes millions of dollars doing marketing. He speaks to 10,000 people in arenas. He's kind of a big deal. And so I don't teach what I know. I had to go back to school and figure out, how do I get my message across? Yeah. And how do I build up this community of getting people to wrestle better, getting people to wrestle, so they communicate with a small town. And a lot of these small town shows we're working are the equivalent of spot shows or house shows on the road. So how do we communicate that? And I can't reach everybody. And he's like, Bob, start a podcast. And I was like, oh, great, another wrestler podcast. He's like, yeah, but how many are doing what you're doing? And I was like, oh, almost none. I know Quackenbush did it for a while, and a couple of other people have tried it. And, and Jim Cornette's one of my oldest, dearest friends in wrestling, but I know a lot of people, and I'm fine with it because I actually know the real Jim Cornette. Here's a spoiler, folks. What you hear on the radio might not, what you hear on the podcast might not actually be the real guy sometimes. You grew up watching wrestling. It's okay to still, get kind of taken along for the ride.
Right.
But Jim's message isn't always delivered with chocolates and flowers. It's kind of delivered with a hammer sometimes. So, when I have to bring out the hammer, I will. But a lot of times it's, hey, have you tried this? Hey, a lot of people don't even bother. Oh, I'm not even going to bother. These kids, they don't get it. And I'm like, yeah, but we were kids too. We didn't get it back then, and now we do because someone took the time. Yep. So it's really just taking the time. So I just do a podcast, and I'll, you can't solve everybody's problem with a catch-all podcast, but I'll do stuff like, here are the 5 things that I see on the 5 mistakes that promoters make, or how to have a kick-ass match, and I give them like 4 or 5 points. Now, obviously, it's not for everybody, but it's really kind of a nice little general point of these are a lot of the habits that I see on the independent wrestling shows, and this is kind of some stuff we can do to start to fix them. Now, in a 20-minute podcast, most of my podcasts, unless they're interviews, are between 15, 25 minutes. And if they're interviews, they might go a little longer, but people,
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things where I really wanted it. If I was going to do a podcast, I don't want to just do a podcast, people swapping stories back and forth. I love stories. I love hearing about them.
Mm-hmm.
I want a productive podcast that gives people wins.
Yeah.
They give people wins when they listen to it, and it can kind of get them started. Obviously, it's going to be general, and I can't do a 4-hour seminar every time I do a podcast, but
right.
I can point out some common things some common mistakes that people make, some common, good things that people are doing too. Here's the things you need to do, and things like that, and I want people to listen to it in their car when they're going to a show, and then apply it that night, hopefully.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of podcast I wanted to do. So it kind of got me started, and it's helped market the website community that I have, the wrestlelife.com. And it's a lot of practical advice that you can put in tomorrow, because face it, 99% of the people, probably 99.5% of the people, are wrestlers that are never going to make it on a national level. And you know what? That's okay.
Yeah.
It's really okay.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where if you're not going to make it, you can still have a productive career on the independents. You can still wrestle part-time. And think about it too, Jared. Like, part-time doesn't mean 5 matches a year. It could mean 40, 50 matches a year. Well, that's how much Roman Reigns wrestles. I mean, he's on TV every week, obviously. But I mean, talking about in-ring stuff, you can have a career where you're doing something in wrestling every day. You can do social media stuff. You can do stuff for your website. You can have an email list.
Yeah.
You can cut promos. You can be in wrestling every day. You can be doing something. And then, hey, by the way, I have these 30 or 40 appearances a year. Well, we can't all be Taylor Swift and tour 200 times a year.
Yeah.
And Taylor Swift, by the way, my wife and kid went to Taylor Swift and said, we would have paid double. She earned every single bit of it. And the next day you see her in the pouring rain. She's out there. She does a 3.5-hour show, and it's life-changing. So she deserves every piece of it. And guess what? When Taylor Swift didn't know what to do, she started small and just picked up guitar and played too. So you never know where that's going to lead. But again, it's one of those things where we can't just have a bunch of superstars on TV and a bunch of broke independent wrestlers that are all drug addicted and leave their wives and run around and live in a trailer park. There's got to be a middle ground.
Yep.
And my goal, and I said it 6 or 7 years ago, was to build a middle class in wrestling. And I think we're doing a nice job doing that.
Yeah.
Me and a lot of other people, not me,
Well, I mean, it kind of does seem that way, though, because I mean, I follow you on social media and everything, and I love the stuff that you put out there, because I mean, it makes sense. The things that you're saying, you're not posting things that just a gripe about. You're actually posting things that, hey, this actually makes sense, and it will help if you actually apply this stuff to yourself.
Yeah, I'm not, and I really try. A lot of the stuff is mistakes that I've made. A lot of the stuff is mistakes I've made. In fact, probably 100% of it, I've made a lot of those mistakes. And there's an old saying, and I don't know who said it, Jesus, Ben Franklin, who knows, Elon Musk, who knows who said it. But it's one of those, you can either buy every single one of your mistakes, or you can rent other people's, something like that. So it's where, in other words, it's like learn from my mistakes. In other words, it's flowery language for learn from my mistakes. And that's the whole thing. It's like, I didn't get on the road and become a national guy and touring and all that because I was very stubborn, and I didn't start doing it till I was after 40. I've really only been traveling the last 9 or 10 years. And I could have been traveling a lot earlier. I used to make fun of the guys, and I hope they hear this. And, they don't have to call me out on it, because I'm calling myself on it. And I've mentioned this on other podcasts before, but Colt Cabana, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Delirious, all these guys that I'm friendly with now, I used to laugh at them. Oh, these guys, they're marks. They're driving the TNA for 13, 14 hours. They're driving here. They're driving there. Just about all those guys make six figures or more in wrestling now. So
Right.
it's one of those things where they laid the groundwork for themselves, and they were doing the stuff that would get them noticed years before everybody else was. And then when a couple of my guys did it, they didn't necessarily achieve the national success, but they toured. They had great experiences. They met a lot of cool people. You can travel just to travel too. You don't have to travel to become signed or anything like that. You can just go wrestle and see what North Carolina looks like, see what the Midwest looks like, and see what California looks like. And it's okay.
Yeah.
And you can just wrestle in these cool places, because if it's about the money, then you're going to stay home. But if it's about the experiences, and then maybe the money will come along later. And while we're trying to make more money, I'll help you save money, and I'll help you kind of budget yourself and still stay in nice places and not and still have some good experiences. But we all kind of have to make this work all together.
Yeah.
And if we stay home and kind of just wish and hope and, brother, I don't get out of bed for anything less than $100, then it's just you're going to stay in bed.
Yeah.
You know, and I've never understood that. Go ahead, please.
Well, and going to all those different places and trying out those, you have a better chance of more exposure as well. Love it everywhere, and at the same time, get more exposure.
Right. You never know who you're going to meet. I've met some cool people. I just connected with a guy, Jake Oman, who I know. We have a bunch of mutual friends, and he's friends with Jack Vaughn. Well, I met Jack Vaughn through Cody Hawk.
Okay.
And Jack Vaughn at 36 or 37 years old, and you might know Jack from his videos, his TikTok videos where he's kind of like poking fun at the independent wrestlers, leg slap and all that stuff. Well, well, you know what? If you don't like it, it's my fault, and if you do like it, it's my fault. So, but Jack actually did the videos. Trust me, I'm not saying I had anything to do with the videos, but Jack was posting some really funny stuff on Twitter, just kind of one-liners, kind of poking fun at the indie guys.
Right.
And I said, hey, have you ever tried kind of doing like the TikTok stuff? Because an old guy kind of yelling at the young guys on TikTok, I think would be funny, because you're kind of beating them at their own game. Yeah. And then he just ran with it, and now he's getting booked off of it, for crying out loud. So, and then through that, he had shown me a match with him and Jake Oman. And I said, oh, I've heard of this Jake Oman. Well, then I see Jake at a show this week in Indiana, and he has an incredible match with a young man that he's training. And I said, Jake, we're going to try to put you in front of people. Like, I know people that, run national wrestling companies and international wrestling companies. And this is a guy who's just kind of just sitting there waiting for the call. And, and he's like, I've never had anyone champion me. And I said, well, here I am, God works in mysterious ways, so hopefully I'll do what I can for him. But and then it's also like, I always wanted people that when I was doing well, I always wanted people to say, hey, maybe I'll make a phone call for you. Maybe I'll, you read all these stories about guys like Ernie Roth, the Grand Wizard. Ernie Roth would pick up the phone and call Vince McMahon if he liked somebody and said Vince should use somebody. He got a ton of people booked. He never gets any credit for that stuff, but he's in everybody's book. Yeah. Like superstar Billy Graham, that's pretty much the reason he became WWF champion. Yeah. Like, and RIP just passed away, but it just kind of refreshed my memory. But people that are doing the right thing should be recognized, pointed out, and publicized. Yes. Because, and I'm thrilled that mostly women, some men, but most of the women, and some I'm actually tight with, did the speaking out thing, did the Me Too thing. We us men need to be called out on our BS. Right. But I also want like a nice positive one where we're saying, hey, this guy, this girl, they're killing it on the indies, and nobody's shining a spotlight on them. Let's get them booked. Yep. Let's get them out there. Let's hand them off to different people. Let's publicize people. I don't run a promotion in Pennsylvania, but even though I'm in New England, I promote with my friend Kevin Kelly. We book a promotion in Hamburg, Pennsylvania at the historic Hamburg Fieldhouse. Yeah. One where Snuka hit Piper hit Snuka over the head with a coconut. And there's all kinds of history there. And I'm bringing in people from different areas just to put in front of Kevin, because Kevin has a relationship with New Japan. It doesn't mean that people are going to go to New Japan Wrestling necessarily, but man, it's kind of nice to just have a guy like Kevin Kelly, who was in WWF, WWE, Ring of Honor, has done some AEW stuff, has done, he's in New Japan, and he's going to say, hey, you're good. Keep at it. You're doing good things.
Yeah.
You're doing good work. Like, that kept me in the business when some of the national guys would come down to my shows and say, hey, you're good. You're a talented guy. You should keep wrestling, when I didn't want to. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is just, I don't know why people don't step up and help each other more, because that's literally the secret to success.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, the more you have, you got to spread the love too, I mean, and that's what you're trying to do, and I appreciate that as well. I mean, I'm not a wrestler, but I appreciate seeing that because, it's a team effort almost in that aspect, because you have to have each other.
Right. And that little cutoff breath, that little sigh that you gave right before you made that statement.
Yeah.
Is one of the things where, because right then you flash back to 20 times it didn't happen.
Yep.
And that's why you had that like parsed breath, and it frustrates me as well.
Right.
Because you see the guys who are, and man, I just saw some stuff last week, and I'm not going to name names, but this guy can't work for this guy, and this guy can't, this girl's working here, and oh my God, they got heat with this one now. Why? And that doesn't mean every promotion has to book exactly the same way, and we all have to love each other.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? If it's okay if somebody works for somebody one day and somebody works for somebody else the next. We don't need to be. It's all small time stuff.
Right.
This isn't David Letterman and Jay Leno in the heat of the late night wars, where you can't appear for one, because that's a ratings thing and there's millions of dollars on the line. This is nothing.
Right.
Compete with yourself. I always tell promoters, compete with yourself. If you have empty seats, then you didn't do well enough. Fill the seats next time. That's exactly it. There should be nothing about I got heat, I got this, I got that. Forget all that.
Yeah.
Compete with yourself.
Well, don't have excuses. Just find answers for it. I'm learning that with this. I mean, I have certain episodes where I didn't get as many downloads for that one episode, and I had to tweak it and be like, okay, what was different here? What did I have here? And it's not, oh, well, they started listening to another episode, another show. No, I have to look at myself and figure out, what am I doing that maybe they're not liking? And you have to kind of mold yourself into that to be more people friendly.
Well, and don't even make it as, and I'll give you a piece of advice there, because this is something I deal with all the time. Don't make it so personal.
Right.
It might not be that they didn't like it. It might have been that you did something differently in the delivery of it. Maybe you uploaded it at a different time. Mm-hmm. Maybe you didn't market it as well as you thought you did. Maybe you meant to press post on the Instagram post and you forgot until the next day.
Yeah.
It could be something analytical. Go analytical first.
Yeah.
Before you go, well, I guess they all hate me now and they don't want to listen to me anymore. Because I really doubt that that's what it is.
Yeah.
Even though I don't know you well, but we're talking right now. You have a very pleasant voice. You're not, you basically, I've been yelling at you for the last 20 minutes, so you haven't had much to say, but it's, the point is, it's like, you're letting the guest speak. So I can't imagine that any guests would have a problem with you. I would go analysis first. Yeah. And it's very difficult because we take this so personally. It's a passion. We love it.
Right.
So look at technique first, rather than, did I say something that offended people? Did I, and sometimes I just heard Conrad, it was an old episode where he was talking about, everybody complained that they were going to do an episode on Bob Holly. And then everybody said it was one of the best episodes he ever did with Bruce Pritchard. So, so it might be that they're not giving that a chance because it's not interesting to them. Okay, well, but you still have to go, it's the whole dollar cost average with stock market. You still have, it went down yesterday, but it's probably going to go up today, and it'll go up a little bit more than it goes down. So 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's fine. Just learn from it and move on. And just, maybe I have to hit it harder in the marketing. Maybe there was a provocative clip where this person said something, not provocative as in I hate everyone and all that.
No.
Bob Evans shoots on Jake Oman, and then I say 10 nice things about Jake Oman, but now it's like, okay, what's going on here?
Right.
And because shoot on they think of that as a negative thing, but really it's just talking real.
Yes.
So, so that's the kind of thing. And again, if you're not getting enough attention, then just buy for more attention.
Right.
That's it. So,
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
So, I mean, like I said, that did happen, and I was able to figure out what was going on, and I was able to start getting those numbers back up, and I haven't had a problem since.
Easy.
So,
right back to it.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Good
but no, I get
Excellent.
that, you have to be willing to look at yourself and be like, what do I need to do to make this more appealing?
And 99% of independent wrestlers that aren't getting enough bookings is because they're not asking for them, or they're not going out there. And 99% of podcasters are not getting attention. And I've fallen into this because I'm still a rookie at podcasting. I'm not trying hard enough to get attention.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean jump out of a window on the TV news. It just means, I mean, if you want to, you can. It's a great trick. You can only do it once, though.
Yeah.
But the idea is that usually the things that are the problem are usually small things that we can do ourselves that can fix the issue.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this, man. This is great. And, with this, another thing, you have to be willing to hear people say no, and doing this
and
podcast,
be okay with it.
Yeah.
And be okay with it. Yeah.
How many times I've asked people to be on the show and they'd be like, no, not today, but I keep asking, and I've gotten some pretty cool guests from that. And so you have to, they say thick skin, and you kind of do have to have a thicker skin, I guess you could say, when it comes to, not everybody's going to be keen on what you're doing.
And also the fortune is in the follow-up, right? Because maybe they can't do it this month, but they can do it next month.
Right.
And then when you bring it up next month, they go, well, I can't do it this month. I'm very busy. Okay. Well, now you come back a third time and they go, well, I've already kind of turned this guy down twice. I can't turn him down again. Or they tell you to F off and you're done. And that's fine too, because at least you're not wasting your time. But most of the time they're going to give in because, you've shown persistence.
Right.
And okay, now this guy really wants me on. Now I actually feel like, now I feel wanted. Now I feel pursued.
Yeah.
And a lot of people kind of dig that. I mean, especially in this business, this is a, hey, look at me business.
Yes.
So if you're paying attention to somebody, they ain't going to be too mad at you. They're probably going to be into it. Like, oh, the guy, he wants to talk to little old me. And then they try to, and again, I've said no to podcasts and I never hear from them again. And I've said no to podcasts and they usually follow up and okay, now they got me.
Yeah.
So that's how it is. And you can, and again, you've just told your story where you've qualified it, but that's exactly what you need to do. And it's the same thing I tell wrestlers all the time, well, I get left on red. The guy won't talk to me. I said, have you gone to a show and offered to set up his ring? Have you gone to a show, shook his hand in a jacket and a nice pair of jeans and with cologne and a nice piece of jewelry on. And you look like something when you walk through the door and say, what can I do to help today?
Yeah.
I'm not here to wrestle. I'm just here to help. What can I do?
Right.
And by the way, I have my gear if you need me, but I'm just here to check out the show because I've heard so many good things about it.
Yep.
How many people do that? 5 out of 100, maybe.
Right.
And then those are the people that get booked. Oh, they kissed his butt. They did. Come on, man. Like that's baby stuff. That's poor, broke ass people making excuses. Politics.
Exactly. Yep.
It's Donald Trump. It's Joseph Biden. It's Ronald Reagan. It's Jimmy Carter. It's George Washington. It can be anybody you want. Blame anyone you want. Blame me. We'll blame Jared today. We'll blame Bob tomorrow. We'll blame somebody the third day. We can blame anybody we want.
Right.
And like you said too, like it's a responsibility issue. If you want more bookings, go to more shows.
Yep.
Well, I'm not booked on the show. Well, it's independent wrestling.
Mm-hmm. You'll
set up the ring one day, and then 3 months later, you beat the tag champs. That's just how it is.
Right.
Because it's not as many people are as committed to this as you. Take advantage of that. Don't complain about it. Take advantage of it.
Yep.
It's an opportunity. Well, these independent wrestlers, they're in and out. Don't be that guy or girl. Hang in there and show up to everything. Be reliable. How much? What is it? Woody Allen said it. I think Terry Funk said it. A bunch of people said 90% of this business is showing up. Show up.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean like miss everything. I missed my kid's dance recital, but there was money on the line, and she was okay with it. But you know what? I don't miss all the recitals. I miss once in a while I miss something. I'm usually at the other stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm at most of the stuff. So don't miss a ton of family stuff. Don't take a week out of your job and go broke. Don't do stuff like that. But if you need to make some small sacrifices, or if you need to save up money, I'll fly myself to California. You know, I'm on the East Coast. I'll fly myself to California if it helps. If it helps get me a job, if it helps get me an opportunity. Because this is what I tell people, and this is the deepest, darkest secret. And I'm going to blow it up right now. All those PWG guys, they fly themselves in and they get paid $50. How about that? All those PWG guys, they fly themselves in, they get paid $50, $100.
Yep.
And the PWG fans know it, so they buy a bunch of merch.
Right.
And the guys kind of make a profit on merch, but the opportunity is worth it.
Right.
But not every opportunity is the same. However, if you don't go, then you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people say it's the right time, right place. Well, you got to kind of put yourself in the right place and do your best to estimate the right time. And if you can't do that, then what are you doing?
Right.
Like it fascinates me where people are lost and they quit wrestling before they've even tried that hard. That's my frustration.
It reminds me of something that my grandpa used to say when it came to
love it.
They had so you've heard of Finger Hut, right?
Sure have.
And they had like the giveaways and the money that they would do, and they had the clearinghouse and all those different things that you could do back in the day. And he always said, you never win if you don't play. Well, it's the same thing with this. If you never show up, you're never going to get booked.
And you know, and I mean, you know what Wayne Gretzky said and Michael Jordan said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Exactly.
My friend Kevin Kelly, who not only is an all-star booker, announcer, one of the, you know, Wrestling Observer announcer of the year, all kinds of years, but he's also an excellent salesman.
Mm-hmm.
And he made a lot of sales in radio and stuff. Jim Ross was too. Like, there's got to be something to that. And Kevin Kelly says 99% of people fail because they never ask for the business.
Yep.
You'll go to a show, you'll shake a promoter's hand, you'll set up the ring, and you go, all right, well, hey, see you later. It's like, and I remember I did it too.
Yes.
I remember going to, and this is back in the day. This might be before your time, but when Jim Kettner was doing they still do the Super 8, but this is when it was like the big all-star Super 8s of like the late 90s.
Yeah.
And I went with my friend Steve Bradley, and Steve was nice enough to forego the plane ticket and just said, I want to ride with my buddies. And it was me, him, and our buddy Alex Arion. Well, I went to the show, and it was an awesome show. And I shook Jim Kettner's hand, and then I started to leave. And then I put the brakes on, and I said, if you don't ask for a job now, you'll never get one.
Mm-hmm.
Turned around. I said, Jim, can I send you a tape? This is back with tapes, VHS tapes. I said, can I send you a tape and a picture? And could you watch my match? Give me some advice. I'd love to work here. And I'd love to work here, you know, whenever you can have me. I'll make myself available. And he goes, Bob, it was great to meet you. And sure, you have my address. And, you know, feel free to send me anything. I sent him a tape. He watched it and he said, yep, it's good. But I want to see more. I hope to see you live. And then guess what? 6 months later, he saw me live and he goes, I get it now. You're booked. I ended up getting booked for 3 shows.
Wow.
And then I got booked for 3 more in a show in another show for Blaine DeSantis in Pennsylvania, one at the Hamburg Fieldhouse where I got to meet Bruno Sammartino. But that's not even the rest of it. I got booked for $5,000 of TV extra work because I got to know Kevin Kelly.
Wow.
And he knew I was a good hand. So that one decision probably made me $7,000.
Yeah.
And also like lasting relationships that I've had. Kevin Kelly's one of my best friends now. His son's my godson. And I got to know Kevin after he booked me for all that stuff because he and I were friendly, but we weren't friends.
Yes.
And then when he got fired, I helped get him on the independents. And I still help getting him on the independents. You know, like these are the decisions you make when you ask for the business. And that was even before Kevin said ask for the business. It was just one of those things where I said, I better take advantage of this opportunity.
Yeah.
It was before I knew anything about sales.
Yeah.
Or even like seizing opportunities. I just kind of realized that I had the promoter for 30 seconds to ask him a question before he got busy again after a show, breaking down, going home.
Right.
And I took advantage of it. But that one decision led to a lot of money. A lot of money.
It was a good decision.
So a lot of money and a lot of exposure.
Yeah.
I got booked for like 20 almost 20 appearances on WWF, WWE. You know, I had 3 or 4 darkened TV matches, and then I had a couple of extra appearances where I was like a background actor and things like that. And then, you know, it kind of dried up at that point, but I was running my school, and I had different areas of expertise, but that decision carried a lot of, you know, it carried the day, and people have to be like that. They have to sell themselves in the room. And one of the questions I get, and you've probably gotten this question, what do I have to do to stand out? What do I have to do to look different? And a lot of it is present yourself better.
Right.
Don't walk in like a bag carrier who's going to go from one town to the next like a grifter.
When you walk in, you got to have confidence.
Yes, it's how you present yourself.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
It's how you present yourself. And if you don't present yourself well, and you don't say, what can I do to help?
Mm-hmm.
What can I do to help today? What can I do to take stress off of you? Or what can we do to help draw? Like I said it before, and I'll say it again. Like, I was at a show, and I was kind of embarrassed because it was a local show with a lot of friends of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't draw particularly well. I'm not at the show that often, but I was coming there more often than I had used to. So I was trying to make myself useful. And there were about 40 or 50 people there. And the guys are kind of like taking, not money bets, but they're like, hey, what do you think the over-under is today? 40 people, 50 people, ha, ha, ha. They're all laughing. And I said, instead of assing off in the back, why don't we figure out how we can draw?
Right.
Why don't we figure out how we can sell this place out?
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of a cool thing that happened, because in the next 20 minutes, we came up with about 20 or 30 productive ideas where we could sell. It's a small building, maybe 150 tickets. And it turned into a very productive thing. That doesn't mean we all have to be always prim and proper. We can have a lot of fun, play grab ass. Let's do it.
Yeah.
But if we're not selling out, man, I'd love to play grab ass when there's a sold out house a lot more than I want to play grab ass when there's no people out there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because put it this way, what's the documentary going to, I always say, what's the documentary going to look like?
Mm-hmm.
A stranger comes in from work, not a stranger, but like somebody you know from work, or a stranger, or your wife, and you're playing around while there's 38 people there.
Yeah.
It looks pretty terrible.
Right.
But if you're playing around when there's 350 people there, well, then you look like the bee's knees.
Yeah.
Oh, these guys can joke around because they have this great crowd.
Yeah.
And then if you're joking around when you don't have a great crowd, now you just look like you're fooling around and it's a softball game. And, you know, we might as well just waste time with I've never understood people that just go wrestle because they want to just go wrestle. And that's fine.
Right.
But just do a YouTube thing.
Yeah.
And
there's plenty of that.
Just stream it. Yeah. But don't rent a building and buy insurance and rent a ring or buy a ring and hire wrestlers if you don't have any intention of running it like somebody that would do that stuff.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I know I don't have very much time left with you on here and everything.
We've really done a good job going over my career, haven't we?
Yeah. I'm definitely going to have to get you back on.
It's kind of my fault, Jared. No, it's kind of my fault, Jared. I really steer people away from the career stuff because not that I'm very proud of what I've done in wrestling, but this stuff's way more interesting to me.
I get it.
So
I totally get it. I mean, I'm enjoying this completely, you know, I like hearing all of this.
Well, you know what? I'm going to, you know what? I've already taken over. I'm going to take over for another 5 minutes.
Okay.
Before I leave you, I'm taking over.
Okay.
What can let's do a little mini coaching session here. What can I do to help Jared and Jared's podcast? What are you struggling with right now?
Well, let's see.
What's the next step for you that you envision for what's the goal? What's the next step? What are you struggling with taking that next step? What can I do to help?
So right now I feel like I've kind of hit a plateau when it comes to the amount of people that are coming on. I advertise pretty much everywhere I can, but I'm not really getting that next group of people to come in. And I'm hoping that with some of the other guests that I like this episode here, you know, and some of these that will bring in more people. So I don't know. Maybe I need to change the way I'm advertising or things like that, because I do it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok. I do it in all those places, and I'm wanting to
Facebook Reels, things like that.
So it's kind of hard to do the Facebook Reels and everything whenever I don't have video. So that's one thing my goal is by the end of the year, I want to move this to be a video podcast as well.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So we're doing all those things. How often are we posting?
I probably for advertising for the show, I do the Friday before, then I advertise on the day of, and then I do a reminder on the midweek, and then I post stuff that doesn't have to do with the episode on the other days.
Okay, so we're pretty regular, a couple times, three, four times a week, more often than that.
Yep.
Great. Start doing the reels with any kind of pictures or highlights you can find. Don't spend 62 days on it.
Okay.
But if you can have, say you have me on, find a match on YouTube with a little 15-second thing on there where I say something about somebody, and then show a little, I wrestled this guy, and then you kind of have a picture of this guy, or, kind of start using that a little bit more.
Okay.
I know do you follow the Good Guys Bad Pants podcast? I know it's a silly name, but
I've heard of it. I don't know if I do or not.
Now they do a video podcast, but they're a good example of hammering it. I see stuff on them all the time. Now, granted, I look at their stuff so it shows up, but they must be doing the right things because it's popping up and they've grown their audience.
Right.
So the way you grow your audience is you get more attention. And you have to, and next thing I would tell you to do, and this is going to sound funny because you're kind of a smallish podcast, but get an email list going.
Okay.
Get an email list going to let people know when you're podcasting.
Okay.
And don't be afraid. Again, now this wasn't particularly provocative. I was honest, but there's really nothing to get canceled over, and we're not trying to get anybody canceled. But if there's a headline you can snag and use, then use it.
Right.
And again, here's another thing you can do that very few of my podcast people do, but when they do, it's successful. Go on other people's podcasts.
Yeah.
And trade with them. So you're on their podcast one week, they're on yours. And also, I want you to write this down. Okay. Top 100. Okay. And I want you to look at it, and you don't have to make that list today.
Okay.
But if there were 100 people that you could talk to, be influenced by, be mentored by, be helped by, that you could help too, those people, who would those people be? And start listing them.
Okay.
And then contact every single one of them. This has been one of the things that's really launched me into into the next level.
All right.
Because I'm never afraid to ask, what can I do? What can I do to be here? What can I do to help? It's just some places I really don't want to be.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to name those places. So, but as far as podcasts go, man, growing the audience is getting the word out because it's a busy marketplace, but also you're already top probably 25% because of the amount of ones you've done and the regularity you've done it in.
Yeah.
So, and then it's just CPR from that point. Consistent, prolific, relentless. Consistent is put it out every week. Prolific is talk about it a lot, and relentless is never give up.
Yeah.
And that's how you get more of an audience. And that's really the best advice I can give you. Again, just keep it up. Figure out a way to make the TikTok and real stuff work. And if you're not posting, if you feel like you're posting too much, post some more until someone yells at you to stop posting. And also don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. This has been really effective for me. Now I know I have a much more specific market than you do, but don't be afraid to throw $1 or $2 a day for a month at either Facebook or Instagram ads.
Yeah.
And just target wrestling fans or independent wrestling fans, whatever your target is, just to raise an awareness.
Okay.
Hey, I'm Jared. I'm a cool guy and I have a podcast. We talked to some cool guests. Obviously that's very generic language. You'll come up with the way you say it.
All right. Yeah.
But throw a buck a week. I mean, $1 a day at it for a month. So throw $30 at it. Don't spend let's pay the mortgage. Let's
Right.
get everybody
what they need.
We don't want them to repo the car, but let's, don't be afraid to put a little money into it,
Right.
a little money,
Yeah.
and then find a hook and find sponsors, even if it's just affiliate links. I do a lot of stuff with Stash. I do a lot of stuff with Upside,
Uh-huh.
the gas where they give you cash back on gas.net.
Right.
That's mine.
Mhm.
And it just links to my affiliate link, but I've made some money off of that.
Okay.
Digit, which is an automatic saving thing because so many wrestlers are bad with their money and ADHD. And Digit is one of those things that just kind of takes a little piece of money out of your account and saves it in a savings account, and you don't have to worry about it. And I've saved like $7,000 for my retirement in the last 2 years because of it.
Oh, wow.
Without really
Okay.
having, it's legit. So, and that's ican'tsavemoney.com. So, and I paid $11, $12 a year for that. I've learned it from Conrad. All that gimmick, boxofgimmicks.com, all that does is go to Bruce's Pro Wrestling Tea store. I just
Right.
learned it from Conrad. I just follow Conrad's a millionaire. Do what the millionaires do. What's Conrad doing on his? He's doing the Patreon thing, which you may not be ready for.
Right.
But there's a lot of stuff you can do for free. And like I said, man, the biggest thing I've said is spend $30.
Yep.
And then you'll make it back with the affiliate links and stuff. And plus, like, don't lie. When I do my description, I say these are not sponsored links, they're affiliate links.
Yeah.
But people don't care.
Right.
And then it sounds like you have commercials in your thing too.
Yeah.
Because I do commercials where I'll have 3 or 4 of them, and I've made a couple $100 from them. But it pays something.
Yeah.
It offsets some costs. Pays for the microphone and the software and all that. So, look at ways you can finance it. It's there's a lot of cool ways you can do this, and just don't be, again, I think you're doing a lot of the right things anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Going to video would be the next step, but really it's digging in, finding more of your audience.
Right.
And there's a lot more people out there that like podcasts than you think.
Oh,
So-
yeah. There's a lot out there.
Yes.
So I did
So-
want to ask you a question. Do you do?
Sure.
So there's something I've started doing. I've associated with a bunch of different podcasts and stuff like that. I've joined 2 podcast networks, and what
Great.
we do is we do promo swaps. So like I have a
Yes.
commercial for my show. They have a commercial for their show, and after the interview,
Awesome.
I'll play theirs, and they'll play mine. I've noticed that that's helped a lot. I've gotten people from that.
Yes.
I also came
Yes,
up with
yes,
business
yes.
cards recently with my QR code.
Fantastic. That's another piece. And also let's invest. Let's call Big Sam Stackhouse in Oklahoma,
Uh-huh.
or let's go to stickermule.com and let's make up some stickers with your logo on them and go, I'll mail you a sticker if you join my mailing list.
So funny
You know,
enough,
my
my
email
wife
list.
makes those. So I have a whole
Even
stick
better.
right
So we
behind
can-
me.
So we can go. So we have a sticker company. You're right. You don't even have to hit up any of those guys. You can.
Right.
You got the. Hopefully, she'll do business with you.
Oh, yeah,
Hopefully,
she-
you're a man of an exquisite reputation where she feels like she can still do business with you. It's a professional and a personal relationship. But
For sure.
so now it's even easier.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to, and you want a sticker, and people love that stuff. People love free stuff.
Right.
It's the finger hut thing all over again.
Yeah.
But and give them something. Give them either a specific piece of content.
Yeah.
Give them, give them something that they wouldn't normally get. Either a specific piece of content, a 15-minute extra something,
Mm-hmm.
or give them a sticker. Get them on your email list. You get 200-300 people on your email list, man. Things start to get rolling.
Yeah.
Really like heavy, because what's going to happen is they'll start looking for your emails. And now you have the gimmick where it kind of, the notification will go up, they'll flag it, and then they go, oh, there's a new podcast, and you have the link to it, and you click to it, and you can have your affiliate links on it. And this is a good way to push your wife's sticker business too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, I mean,
And,
she makes my t-shirts too.
Well, here we go. So, I mean, and there's so many, it's like gear makers. There's so many scam t-shirt people out there.
Yeah.
Then you might just be a podcast that is there to build your wife's printing business.
And
Maybe we
fine.
make money through that, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Who cares where the money comes from, as long as you get some of it, right?
Exactly.
So she's just going to have to pay for the movies from now on. That's all.
That's fine.
Yeah, but again, man, it's the same thing I tell wrestlers with merch and stuff. I said it's a different feeling when you come home and you don't have to say, honey, I use the credit card for gas. I use this, I use that.
Yeah.
And now we're $87 in the hole. And then you
Right.
come home with $50 and you paid for everything.
Right.
It's not all the money in the world, but at least you financed yourself, and your partner, your significant other, your parents, whoever, they'll have a lot more respect for you because you're doing it you're financing it yourself. You're hey, it pays for itself and I make a little money. It's kind of a side hustle, whatever, but it's a lot more respectful when no, I just lose my ass every week. Like it's not really, you seem unintelligent at that point if you keep doing it over and over and over again, or insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, those are and there's also I want you to write this one down. This one will make you $1 million if you do it right. I'm still working on it.
Are you good?
Acres of Diamonds. Acres of Diamonds by Acres of Diamonds.
Okay.
And I want you to put Earl Nightingale next to that name. And this is for your listeners too. It's about a 12 or 13 minute YouTube clip. Now, old Earl is very stoic, but he's super wise. He's pretty much the one that brought Tony Robbins and all these guys to the forefront in audio learning.
Okay.
So any kind of motivational audio stuff, he was pretty much the first guy to bring it to the masses. And he does a good job himself. He's just he's a stoic guy, but he was actually one of the guys on the bombing of the Pearl Harbor who survived it. Obviously he's been gone for a long time, but again, mentors that you've never met before. Here's another one.
Right.
So listen to that story.
Okay.
I won't spoil it too much for you, but it's basically about using what you have around you.
Yes.
And the resources you have around you. And like you said, right behind you, you have a printing shop.
Yeah, exactly.
So use that to the best of your ability. What can I give a value to someone who might want to listen to my podcast? Because people love free stuff.
Right.
And then, hey man, here's the sticker. Do you mind listening to the podcast? I'll give you the sticker anyway. But if you don't mind, can you listen to it and give us a review? And also I'll send something to you too, which will be real good. I don't have it right in front of me. But I'll send it to you. It's Creator U. Okay. So Creator and then U as in university. Mm-hmm. And there's a podcast class on there that'll triple your anything better. Anything I've said, they'll say it way better and it'll triple your listenership at least. It did for me.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it's I think it's 90. I don't get anything off of this. It's just it's cool. It's a bunch of stuff on there. And it's 90. It's I think they charge you $10 for it because it's content from a couple years ago. Okay. They're repurposing it, but look it up. Look it up. Trust me when I tell you. It's how to get a bunch of podcast listeners or something like that. And it's all super practical, inexpensive advice. And I send it to a bunch of podcasters, and the people that use it, which is about 5% of them, they grow. And the other guys go, I don't know how to do this. And I go, well, we're off to the races again. Here we go.
There you go.
But hey, let me run just because I've taken up enough of your time.
Okay. It has been great talking to you, man. I really appreciate all this. And
we'll talk about Iron Week and all that. We'll talk about Iron Week and all that stuff later. But it's we'll do a part 2. We'll go through my career. Okay. But I wanted to help today. I'm all about helping. So
I greatly appreciate it. You have a great night, all right, man. And I will talk to you next time. Okay.
All right. So you are listening to If You Give a Dad a Podcast with Jared and a dad myself of 2 beautiful kids, Robbie and Katie, and a wonderful wife as well, a husband. And I couldn't think of a better podcast to listen to. Support this man. He's a great man. We love you, Jared.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Generic audio commercial, Zio to Hero, take 43. Hey, listener, it looks like you're having fun over here. Listening to insert generic name here. If you like what you're listening over here, come on over to the Zio to Hero podcast, where you can join Billy and myself, the bulk and skull of podcasting. If you want to listen to Ranger Powers, and you want to go into and talk about anime, Gundam. Oh, what did I make them wrong?
You're supposed to say Zio to Hero is the best, and Billy and Jim as bulk and skull of podcasting is funnier than any other show out there. And you didn't say Power Rangers right. Get out of here. Do it again.
Fine. Generic audio commercial, Zio to Hero, take number 44. Hey, listener, it looks like you're having fun over here. Listening to insert generic name here.
God!
Oh, come on!
Hey everyone, this is Brian Ferguson, the host of Bumps and Thumps, the Talk of Wrestling. We are on today because of you. And in order to continue the podcast and get the guests on here that require some financial compensation, we're going to need help from people like you. Right now, we're attempting to get our YouTube videos monetized through YouTube. We need 1,000 subscribers in order to do that. So I've decided that if the 1,000 subscriber will get a free t-shirt like this from me and come on the show as a guest on the podcast. So subscribe today, and that 1,000 subscriber will be contacted by me and be given a t-shirt and come on the show. So subscribe today. If you already have, thank you. If you haven't, please do, and tell your friends and subscribe today. And we'll talk to you soon, and enjoy the podcast.
We are Talking with Words, and we are checking out every movie, every book, every video game, every TV show that we can get our hands on. Welcome back to Talking with Words. Sorry about your eardrums. You're here with Rob,
Sally,
Cameron,
Ryan,
and David.
Man, that fucking delay kills it, doesn't it? This will be fun in the edit room.
You should let him go first.
So how well do you know your favorite movie? How much hate do you have for your most hated movie? Because we can definitely help with that.
I'll buy you a drink. You don't have to flirt.
So tonight we're going to watch Memento. Hey, we're going to watch Nope. And we're going to watch the new Thor movie.
You know this is also called The Big Salad?
Maybe she had ribs like Matt Houston. They're just made of jelly.
I was thinking the same. They're so fragile.
You touch them and they just snap. Russell Crowe, when he comes down to address Thor, his little stop and pause, and he lifts his
his skirt
up and walks down.
Yeah, he prances down the stairs.
It was so
He
good.
has not aged well.
Come nerd out with us at Talking with Words anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Yow! Charlie, take it away.
Are we recording?
All right, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed that episode with Bob Evans. He was a really cool guest to have on. Lots and lots of information. And I am excited to be able to get him back on the show. Maybe here soon. We'll see what happens. I've got a lot of guests lined up. I'm actually booked all the way out to August already. I've got every date planned from now until the end of August. So, really cool guests coming up. And I want you guys to make sure that you stay tuned. And if you want to know what guests are coming up, make sure that you are tuned into my social medias. I am on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and I am on TikTok. Follow me on all of those. I try to keep everything up to date on those pretty regularly, especially on the Facebook and the Instagram and the Twitter. That's where I mostly tag the new episodes that are coming out. I do it on Snapchat as well. TikTok's more just of a fun thing. I do little nerdy videos and things like that. You know, I've had a lot of Pokemon ones and some wrestling ones that I've done here lately. So you can watch those. They're a lot of fun, and I hope to be adding more stuff on there here really soon. But make sure that you go out and just look for If You Give a Dad a Podcast on all social media, and you can find me there. I'll also have a Linktree in my show notes that tells you exactly how to get to each and every one of those. And it'll show you different places that you can actually listen to the podcast at. I've got all different kinds of cool stuff on there. So just go and check out that Linktree that is in my show notes. It's also the first thing that is tagged at the top of my Twitter page. It is tagged at the top of my Facebook, and it's at the top of my Instagram as well. So yeah, just make sure that you go and follow everything. If you want to send me an email, you can do so by sending it to giveadadapodcast@gmail.com. That is also included in my Linktree, but, you know, I like to make sure and put that out there as well. I want to hear from you guys. If there's something you guys want me to talk about, or if there's somebody you want me to bring on, then send me a line and tell me. If you want to just send me a line and say, hey, I really like your show, or hey, I don't like your show, send me a line. I want to hear from you guys. I love it when I hear from you guys. It actually makes my day. I got a few people who sent me reviews the other day, and it really made my day being able to see that. So yeah, go out there, and as I'm saying that, go out, rate and review this show. Tell me what you think of it, whether you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you are listening at. Just go and rate it and review it and tell me how I'm doing. Also, when you do that, that gives more attention to my show. That way I'm more likely to be recommended to somebody. So if you like the show and you want other people to listen to it, make sure that you rate and review this show. That way they know exactly whether you like this or not. So I do have merch out. It is, you've seen it on all of my socials if you are following me on there. I've got t-shirts out, and right now for the month of June, if you buy a t-shirt, they are $20 for local pickup, $25 if I need to ship it. And you'll get a free sticker for my podcast as well. And just go out there and pick one of those up. Support If You Give a Dad a Podcast. I want to give a shout out to my podcast networks. I am a member of 2 of them. They're both amazing. And that is the Avenue Podcast Network and the OIW Podcast Network. They have all kinds of great shows kind of like mine and shows that are nothing like mine at all. You can find all different kinds of great stuff. Make sure that you go out there and look them up. I will have them tagged in my show notes. You can also find my wife's page. She's the one who does all my stickers. She does all my shirts. If you like the way my stuff looks, go and hit her up. She can make custom things for you as well. She does tumblers, hats, you name it. She does it. She does t-shirts. She does coffee mugs, stickers, decals, anything. She can do all of it. So just go and look her stuff up. And lastly, I want to give a shout out to D-Cure. He is the man who created my ending theme song for me. I really appreciate him. If you like the way my ending theme song sounds, go and look up his music. He has tons and tons of music for you to listen to out there. He comes out with new albums all the time, it seems like. And I really appreciate him. And just go and show him some love. I love you guys. I hope you have a wonderful week. And I will see you next time. Bye.
I'm in my room rounded, but I got a podcast on. He calls us beautiful people, then tells us who we have on. The best part of my day, though we're blocked out in my pods. Tell my friends all about it so that they follow along. And the host is kinda nerdy, but guess what I am as well. I don't feel so alone and I began walking out of my shell. Heard a story, I needed connection I haven't felt. I'll be looking for the next one, till then farewell. It's the podcast for me. Have it on, better go see. Listen closely, download and tune in remotely. It's the podcast for me. Have it on, better go see. And listen closely, download and tune in remotely.
This podcast is part of the OIW Podcasting Network.